Should you invest or pay off debt? This is a question many of us are faced with at one time or another. Why would you pay off debt when you could put that money to work to earn more money than the debt is costing? Is it better to use extra money to eliminate or at least pay down debt you've accumulated, or is it better to invest that money so it grows and provides exponential returns for your future? The fact is, either can make sense, but you might be surprised at the difference this simple decision will make. In some cases, these choices could mean the difference of hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars in the future. Let's take a look at the advantages and disadvantages of both options so you can make the right choice that could mean the difference of being completely broke or financially free. My name is Chris, and I help teach people about money, personal finance, and investing. If you're interested in improving your financial future, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if this video is helpful. Before deciding to pay off debt or invest, you must first make sure you've established a financial foundation. This primarily includes setting aside a sufficient amount of money in an emergency fund that's strictly reserved for surprise expenses. Without having money set aside, it's pointless to either pay off debt or invest because one financial emergency could set you back to square one. When you have no cash saved and your car requires a major repair, you'll be forced to either withdraw it from your investments or go into debt to fund it. Saving 3 to 6 months of expenses is a responsible amount to aim for before moving forward. Perhaps the best part about reducing debt and becoming debt-free is the extra room you'll have in your budget. When you have various payments for debts being withdrawn from your account, it can be hard to pay yourself. The more payments you have, the more likely it is that you're living paycheck to paycheck, barely scraping by. When this happens, it feels like you're going to work every day to strictly pay bills, not making any financial progress. While the balance of your loan might be slowly going down, a large percentage of those payments is paid to the lender in the form of interest. Once all loans have been repaid, it will feel like you've received a large raise, as a much larger percentage of your paycheck is yours to keep. Being free of debt makes it so much easier to increase your retirement contributions so you can potentially retire at a much younger age. Alternatively, many choose to invest their extra cash before becoming entirely debt-free. The reason for this is that the interest earned from investments could far exceed the interest rate of the debts, allowing them to make large profits. Does it really make sense to pay off debt at a 5% interest rate when you could earn 10% or more on your investments? Becoming debt-free and waiting to invest could take many years, causing you to lose out on large amounts of compound interest that would snowball your wealth to a new level. The biggest factor when it comes to deciding to aggressively pay down debt or invest extra money is risk. When you pay down loans, you're essentially earning a guaranteed return. If a credit card company is charging you 30% interest and you pay off that debt, that's the equivalent of earning a 30% return on your money with zero risk. Investing always involves some amount of risk. Is it possible to earn a 10% return or more by investing in the S&P 500? Yes, it is. In fact, according to Investopedia, the S&P 500 has averaged over 10% per year since it first began. However, there have been times when the market has had a negative return. In the year 2000, the S&P 500 returned negative 10%, followed by negative 13% in 2001 and negative 23% in 2002. After that, there were some profitable years until 2008, when it returned negative 38%. Over the long term, the odds are in your favor that you're going to make a profit, but returns aren't guaranteed, and it's important to remember this when executing your financial plan. Take a look at this simple, real-life example of paying down debt versus investing money in the stock market. Let's say you have a $350,000 mortgage on a 30-year term. The interest rate is a reasonable 4%, giving you a monthly payment of $1,671. You're making decent money at work and have an extra $1,000 in your budget that you're either going to use to pay down this mortgage or put towards investments. However, you're not sure which is likely to put you in a better place by the end of the 30-year loan period. Scenario 1. Paying down the mortgage. Paying an extra $1,000 per month towards the principal will have you debt-free in 14 years and 5 months, instead of having that mortgage linger for 3 full decades. This means you'll only pay $110,799 in interest over the life of the loan. Then, for the remaining time, you invest not only the extra $1,000 per month, you also invest the amount of the mortgage payment that you were paying previously, totaling $2,671 per month. Investing $2,671 per month for 15 years, 7 months, the remainder of 30 years, will total $1,203,916. Subtracting this total amount you now have invested from the interest you paid of $110,799 leaves you with a total of $1,093,117 at the end of the 30-year period. Put simply, this equation is your total sum accumulated minus the amount of interest you paid. Scenario 2. Making the minimum payment, then investing. Now let's assume that you only pay the minimum payment on the mortgage and invest your extra $1,000 each month. By only paying the minimum payment, you'll have paid a whopping $251,544 in interest over 30 years, much more than in the first scenario. But by investing $1,000 per month into the S&P 500, assuming an average return of 10%, that will have grown to $2,171,000 after 30 years. Your total invested of $2,171,000 minus $251,544 in interest leaves you with $1,919,456. The total in Scenario 2 minus the total in Scenario 1 equals a difference of $826,339. This means by investing your extra $1,000 per month in the S&P 500 instead of paying down the mortgage, you'd have over $800,000 more at the end of a 30-year period due to how your money will compound over many years. That's an amount that could make the difference of being able to retire or needing to work for many more years. Of course, this doesn't consider the risk of investing in the stock market, and it assumes an average return, which is reasonable over a long period of time. One of the main factors in your favor with a 30-year mortgage is inflation. The mortgage payment remains the same dollar amount for the life of the loan, but the dollar loses its value over time. This means that you're able to pay back your loan with dollars that are worth less than they were previously. If inflation averages 4%, the dollar halves its value about every 18 years. Simply put, after about 18 years, your mortgage payment is only half as much as it was when you took it out. While you're paying back debt with a dollar that's worth less than it was previously, you can also invest in assets that keep pace and exceed the rate of inflation, giving you the best of both worlds. A mortgage is a more extreme example when it comes to deciding to pay off debt or invest, and there are 2 reasons for this. The first is that a mortgage is typically a very low interest loan, perhaps the lowest available. With the average mortgage rate in 2021 of around 3% and currently near 5%, that's very close to the rate of inflation, meaning you're borrowing money for basically nothing. For this reason, mortgages are actually desirable for some investors. Second is that mortgages are long-term loans, usually stretching 3 decades. When a loan term is this long, the difference between deciding to pay down the loan or invest extra money is much more significant and something to closely analyze. When it comes to deciding whether or not to pay down debt, there are a few things to consider because it's not cut and dry like one would initially think. Cash flow is obviously a huge benefit that can free up your budget, which is especially important for older investors. When getting ready to retire, cash flow is your number one concern, not which strategy is going to return you more money in 30 years. Risk is also an important consideration, and it's critical to understand this when deciding on a strategy. Generally, paying down high-interest loans and using low-interest ones will return the most profit over the long term. Also consider doing both, using extra income to gradually pay down debt and invest simultaneously. While people have strong opinions when it comes to this topic, the numbers depict each scenario accurately, and it's your job to assess the risk and reward. In order to decide what's best for you, consider all of the pros and cons of both options.